Hello, beautiful humans. Welcome to the revolution. I'm your host, Megan Connor. And today we are recapping day 8 of the Brian Walshe trial. I apologize for my tardiness. Thank you for all for being here. Hi there, E.T. Lizard and Kiki 210. Good to see you guys. John Smith. I've got a million different things on my plate right now, but it was an emotional day in court today. This is going to be a rather quick recap, and then I would love for you guys all to go to Web Sleuths. I'm going to be on Web Sleuths tomorrow night. I'm very excited to talk to Trish and the insightful one. This was an emotional day in court. It was difficult to take in. We had two particular witnesses that really painted a picture for us of who Ana Walshe really is. And I was grateful after all of these days in court of listening to Brian Walshe, listening to his text messages and his internet searches and where he went. I'm grateful finally to have a better picture of who Ana Walshe is. And her dear friend, Cem Mutloo, he was the first witness on the stand today. And here's a spoiler alert for you guys. At the end of this court day, the prosecution rested. So that means that the prosecution has put forth all of the evidence that they want to share in this case today. And next, we're going to hear whether the defense is actually going to put on a defense. Now, the judge reiterated to the jury before they left today, the defense has no burden whatsoever. They do not have to put on a defense. They don't have to call any witnesses, and Brian Walshe does not have to take the stand. The burden is on the state. But those of you who have been following on my channel, I'm coming into this cold. I'm pretending to be a juror. I am not listening to any of the testimony or motions that happen outside of the jury's presence. So there's a lot about this case that I don't know going on behind the scenes. I am only watching what's going on in court. And as a fake juror, I have to say, I think the state has made their burden, to be honest with you. And I've said this a couple of times throughout my recaps, that the only thing that would make me change my mind about what has happened in this case so far is Brian Walshe himself getting on the stand and explaining his behavior and his actions in the days after his wife's disappearance. We're going to put that in quotes. Now, every day when the judge comes in, she asks the jury 4 questions. Have you spoken to anybody about the case? Have you stayed off of social media? Have you not done any research about this case? And do you still have an open mind? Well, I'm obviously talking to you guys here, but I haven't done any research about the case. And I can honestly say, I still have an open mind enough to say, I'm ready to hear what the defense has to say. But they are going to have a huge hurdle to overcome because the evidence in this case has been overwhelming. There are a couple of videos on my channel that I think are particularly important to understanding this case. One of them is the timeline that I posted where I put together all of the evidence from text messages, web searches, web history reviewed, and location data from Brian Walshe. We get to see all of his movements. We get to see what he's doing, what he's saying to everybody, the calls he's making, the texts he's making, the texts he's receiving, all of that. I put all of that together. The other thing is that I posted earlier this evening all of the location data. I went in and put all of those cell phone pings of the different locations he was visiting on the days from Christmas Day of 2022 all the way through his arrest in 2023. And you get to see on the map how far away these things are. Now, today, we got even more insight into that because his parole officer testified today and told us about what his restrictions are, and also told us where he's allowed to go and what his schedule is. So that's going to be really enlightening to look at as well. So those are the things we're going to dig in today. We've got a couple of surveillance videos and receipts to look at, but it's going to be a relatively quick recap. Now, I kept wondering, why is it that I'm having such a hard time understanding this man's name? Was it their friend Jim? Was it a girl who was named Jen? Well, it's because his name is Cem, C-E-M, Mutloo. And he also goes by Cem, G-E-M. So every time in the past that I've said Jim, this is who I'm talking about. A very dear friend of Brian and Ana Walshe. He met Brian at a leadership program. if you remember, I talked about this, I think, in the first day recap, how Brian was kind of bragging about this mentorship leadership thing that he had graduated from. Well, he and Cem were friends during this leadership retreat, and Ana Walshe had taken this class the semester prior and then urged her husband to go, and that's where her husband met Cem. Now, once Cem met Ana Walshe, they bonded. They bonded over real estate, over investing. Cem saw a lot of potential in Ana Walshe and hired her to be his operations manager for his real estate firm. They became very close friends. And at the time that Ana was ready to move on to a new exciting position, her dream job, Cem gave his blessing, and he was very excited for her to move on and to move up into this exciting new role. So here's what he testified to on the stand. He's a realtor, but he's not just a real estate agent. He owns a realty group. He's been doing that for about 25 years, mostly residential. He met Brian Walshe in 2020 through that leadership program I was talking about. The leadership program had a buddy system. And towards the end, where they went into full mentorship, they decided to pair people together. And Brian actually approached Cem and said that he would like to buddy with this guy. So they became friends. Cem met Ana Walshe at the graduation for this program. And then he hired her in the summer of 2020 to be his director of operations. At the time, on his team, he had 3 operators and 5 or 6 agents. He and Ana Walshe became very close. And in the spring of 22, Ana was offered this dream job in Washington, D.C., and asked for Cem's blessing to go on and take that job. Hey, Diamond Dave, good to see you. Jana Smith, good to see you. John, good to see you. Glad you guys are here. Good to be with you guys today. Lisa Bite Me, good to see you as well. I hope everything is well in your house. E.T. Lizard, as always. I think I said hi to you guys before. I just want to make sure. I hate missing people, but I can't watch the chat and read my notes at the same time. So I'm glad you guys are here. Thanks for being here. During the time that Ana was employed by Cem, they talked multiple times a day, and it was a little bit less after Ana moved on to her dream job in Washington, D.C., but he still continued to see them socially, and he saw Brian and the kids as his own family. He was very close to these people. He sold some properties for Brian and Ana Walshe, their residence in Marblehead, and then later some investment properties. And in fact, he called Ana Walshe on December 29th of 2022 to congratulate her on closing on the investment property that he had sold, or his group had sold for them. And he was going to do a 1031 exchange, which is kind of a tax designation where if you sell an investment property, you can take the proceeds and reinvest it into a new property or group of properties to essentially delay paying the tax on the income that you gain from selling that property. So he was talking with her about that 1031 exchange. And, you know, during this conversation, he said that Ana expressed some consternation about some difficulties in their relationship. Now, it was very, very contentious going back and forth. The defense really did not want the phrase marital problems to come into evidence or to get on the court record. There was a lot of objections. There were a lot of sidebars. Again, I don't know exactly what's going on behind that, but I think the defense really did not want Ana Walshe's relationship with Brian to be characterized as difficult or having marital problems. So the defense and the judge too, they would not allow any witness to characterize their difficulties as marital problems. They really wanted to stick with what exactly was said by Ana Walshe about this. So on this phone call on the 29th, Ana said to Cem, I know you're not going to go anywhere. Please come here for New Year's Eve. Then they went on to have all of these struggles back and forth about, was it marital problems or was it just, you know, consternation that Ana had about being away from her children. Cem stated that the travel back and forth to Washington, D.C. was taking a toll on Ana And her biggest complaint was not being able to see the kids often enough. Then on New Year's Eve, Cem went to their rental in Cohassett, and he brought some fruit and chocolate for the kids. He showed up around 8:30 p.m. And he said that Ana Walshe came running out of the house to greet him. She was not wearing a coat, and she just ran up, hugged. It was a sweet, sweet reunion. It was really beautiful to hear him characterize their relationship. When he came inside, he said Brian was there. The kids were sleeping, and they were at the kitchen island together. We've seen pictures of that island from previous testimony. And he was seated right next to Ana Walshe with Brian, preparing the food and serving drinks to the two of them. At some point, their oldest son came downstairs and ran to him and hugged him and said, "We haven't seen you in such a long time." And Ana took a picture of the three of them together, Ana, Cem, and their oldest son, Brian and Ana's oldest son. Cem testified that Ana was texting with several people throughout the evening. Abdullah was one. Then at one point she said, "Let's take a picture and send it to Will Fasto," who we know now was her boyfriend. And then Emily, who is a mutual friend. He said that the oldest son was only with them for about 30 minutes and then went back upstairs. They enjoyed some wine and champagne, and then they signed this champagne box. And I really want to share this with you because this was something that was really heartwarming. So Jesse Roblin, yes, they did mention this throughout the day today, that his court case, his federal case where he was, he pled guilty to committing fraud, traveling to commit fraud, and engaging in a fraudulent financial transaction. And apparently, according to testimony today and other testimony that we've heard, Brian Walshe's team of attorneys was asking for probation and then to pay restitution. But what the state or the Commonwealth was asking for was for anywhere from 30 to 60 days in prison, as well as paying restitution. We'll talk a little bit more about that later, but that definitely was a source of difficulty between them. I'm trying not to pay too close attention to chat because I know you guys have some spoilers that you want to talk about, and I'm just a fake juror. But there is a free chat on my Patreon. It's Megan Connor's trial chat. You guys can talk about all the spoilers you want there because I'm not paying attention to that chat. Only if I'm tagged directly, I can see your message, but I'm not listening to what's going on back and forth there. Let me see that if I can find the timestamp of this beautiful box that was done. The part of the problem is that I like to watch. I start a little bit delayed, and then I watch it on a faster speed. But before the court date concludes, it doesn't give me proper timestamps, so it's a little bit more difficult for me to be able to find it. Let's see. So it would have been around 2-ish.
Hey, sir, do you recognize this side of the box?
I can't believe it. The YouTube gods are smiling on me. So today I watched the live feed of Boston 25 News, and I'm going to play this in accordance with YouTube's fair use policy for commentary. So there was a nice bottle of champagne that was shared, and the three of them signed the box. I'm going to rewind just a little bit because I want to make sure we get Ana's signature. It says, "Wow, 2022, what a year. And yet we are still here and together. Let's make 2023 the best one yet." I'm trying to zoom in so I can see it, and I'm not having any success. Hang on. We are the authors of our lives. Courage, love, perseverance. And I know there's something that comes after that, so I'm going to play it here.
Ms. Gilman, can we now have exhibit?
Courage, love, perseverance, compassion, and joy. Love, Ana. What a beautiful sentiment.
258, which is file number 7222. Sir, does this look like the side that Brian signed?
Yes.
Could you read in this portion if it's possible? The writing on the box in Exhibit 257.
Yes.
Could you read it out loud for us, sir?
Sure. Wow, 2022, what a year. And yet we are still here, and together, let's make 2023 the best one yet. We are the authors of our lives. Courage, love, perseverance, compassion, and joy. Love, Ana.
Ms. Gilman, could we now have Exhibit 258, which is file number 7222?
Heartbreaking.
22, Jen.
And then Cem signed
That night,
his
did the
side.
oldest child give you a compensation that she now had at Tishman's Mire?
Yes, and I believe he said that it was
Sorry, I fast forward
$240,000.
instead of rewinding.
22, Jen. Ever love,
So this is
compassion,
Brian
and joy.
signs after
Love,
that.
Ana.
Ms. Gilman, could we now have Exhibit 258, which is file number 7222? Sir, does this look like the side that Brian signed?
Yes.
Could you read in this portion if it's possible?
Yes. Cem, Ana, Brian, New Year's Eve 2023, to the best triumvirate ever. Love, Brian, and then the date, December 31st, 2022.
And finally, Ms. Gilman.
And for those of you who don't know, triumvirate refers to actually, there's a reference to Julius Caesar in that.
Side of the box.
Yes, it's my handwriting.
And can you read what you wrote on the box?
Yes. No place I'd rather be but here, New Year's Eve 2022. Jen.
So just heartbreaking and sad and sweet all at the same time. He also noted that he didn't have any health concerns about Ana, that she was acting the way she always had. He didn't observe any injuries. And then there was a discussion, oddly, about how much each of them was making that year. And that year, I guess Brian had made between $50,000 and $60,000, but Ana was making around $300,000, including her bonus that year. Then he mentioned that Brian had misplaced his phone, and it felt refreshing to be away from it. And he said that he usually goes to bed around 9:30. And so Cem felt like he needed to leave, but he ended up staying until around 1:30 in the morning. So I can't really explain the ritual about signing the box. I know that some people like to save bottles, special bottles that they've enjoyed together. I guess this box was a special box of the champagne. I've never heard of anybody doing this before, but I do think it's kind of a sweet tradition. If you share a special night and a special bottle with people, to have each of you sign an inscription as a memory, I think it's kind of a sweet tradition, but I've never heard of anybody doing this before. Anyway, Cem says that he left around 1:30 in the morning, and he stopped at an empty, abandoned shopping mall to pick music because he didn't want to be messing with his radio when he was driving. Then he said that on January 1st, he sent a text to the group with Brian and Ana saying that he loved his necklace that their oldest son had given him. And then Brian texted him back on January 2nd saying that he just found his phone. Now, if you've looked at my timeline video, you know that does not match up with what actually happened. So it'll be interesting to see what plays out there. Then on Wednesday morning, Brian called saying that Ana was missing. And Cem thought this was very, very strange because he didn't think that there would be any reason for her to leave or to go missing. And he was very confused by everything. Brian told Cem that Ana got in an Uber and left around 6 or 6:30 on January 1st. And Cem said, "Did you have a fight?" And Brian said to him, "Did it look like we had a fight? You were there." And Cem said he was not panicked. Then there were some group calls with their leadership community, with all of the people that, knew Ana and Brian and Cem together, wondering where Ana was, looking for her, hadn't seen or heard from her since January 31st. And it was quite heartbreaking. He did get emotional several times, and it was very clear how much he loved and respected Ana Walshe. Then there was cross-examination. They reiterated they were in the same leadership class, Brian and him together, and then he met Ana. But they together contributed to a nonprofit called Loving Spoonfuls, which they raised $80,000. And apparently somehow there was a match from Brian Walshe to that same amount. He had no idea where Brian got that money. This was the second New Year's Eve in 3 years that they spent together. 2 years ago, they had met at their Marblehead house, which is north of Boston. He said that Brian never complained about the closeness between Cem and Ana Walshe. Ana was the right hand of Cem while she worked for him. In the fall of 2021, however, Ana responded somewhat passively aggressively to something that was going on in the office. And Cem told her to take a rest and paid her. He said, "Take as long as you need to get things right." They were still close. And he actually reached out to others, including Brian, about how to handle that situation. But then when Ana said that she had this new opportunity for a dream job, and it was growth, and he was very excited, Cem was very excited for that opportunity. He then mentioned that Brian's uncle and his mother were also planning to move to the DC area because of Ana's new job. But Brian Walshe's federal case was hindering them moving. He said that he attended some of the hearings with Brian, with Ana, Brian's mom, and some of Ana's friends. But he was always sitting right next to Ana. He would squeeze her hand when when there was a tense moment. And then there was a question about Diana Walshe, Brian's mom. She was sitting at the end of the row, and she was somewhat upset about this hand holding, but it was objected to, and it was stricken from the record. So we're not allowed to consider that. However, as a fake juror, I'm wondering to myself, where is this mother? I mean, I've seen her in court, right? I know that she's there. And I know that Brian has visited her apartment, which was about an hour drive away. He visited her apartment almost every single day after Ana went missing. I'm wondering about her role. I'm wondering what kind of a mother she is. And I'm wondering if Brian was influenced by her. Anyway, I'm a fake juror. I'm trying to be impartial. I'm trying not to speculate. Anyway, they said that Brian had no jealousy over this friendship. He knew that Ana had a crush on him at one point when they first started working together. But after Ana moved on to her new job, he and Ana, Cem and Ana, kept in touch, and they were still very, very close. They confided in each other. And he said, quote, "She was an exceptional human being." Then they had more discussion about money and salary. He's reiterated that going back and forth from Cohassett to Washington was hard on her, and that Brian liked to invest in small businesses, and that was kind of what his main occupation was. They said that 2 years ago, the New Year's Eve they spent together was out, not at one of the homes. And then he reiterated this call on December 29th of 2022 was to say congratulations on closing on the property. It was referred to as the Revere property. His team handled the sale, and he didn't know exactly how much she made, but it was several $100,000, and she was planning again to roll that into a 1031 exchange. Then they talked about Will Fasto. He said that he was actually the one that introduced Will to the Walshe family. He didn't know Ana Walshe was romantically involved with Will Fasto at any point. He knew they were close, but that's the extent of it. He doesn't recall Brian and Ana arguing. He said there was love between them, but he very I don't know, insightfully noted that people are complicated and you can be in love with someone and also have really difficult relationship with them as well. That's not exactly what he said, but he just said people are complicated. There was a lot of consternation back and forth, sidebars about all of that language. But he didn't recall them arguing. He said there was love between them. He said sometimes Brian or Ana would individually come to him and ask for advice about their relationship. Then he retold the story of arriving at New Year's Eve. He noted that Ana was a diamond ring that was quite valuable. And he did remember Ana saying, "Let's send a picture to Will." Again, they talked about Brian losing his phone, saying it was liberating. And they reiterated that this argument, and it didn't make sense to him that Ana would leave. She seemed happy. And this is where he said again, but people are complex. And then there was lots of rehashing of the entire testimony he had already given. I was really surprised that the prosecution didn't object to asked and answered and things like that. However, he reiterated he did not see them argue on New Year's Eve. He said the evening was joyful and happy, and he didn't understand how Ana could be missing for 3 days and have nobody know where she was. Again, I noted that they're trying really hard to keep out these marital problems, but on redirect, the prosecuting attorney asked him to define what he meant by complex. On 12/29, he said that the phone call that they had just revealed that there were some cracks in their relationship, and that was about all that really could be done at that point. They really could not say anything else. So then we had witness number 39 for the prosecution, Marlene Dayhall, who's a probation officer. And this was really, really revealing. Brian Walshe's probation officer said that she saw Brian every 60 days and that he was on home confinement. He had a pre-scheduled pass and a set window with only an approved schedule, and he was only allowed to take care of necessities and things with his kids and his mom. He had to submit the schedule on Thursday for the following week, and he had no permission to leave the state. If he had any changes to his schedule, he would have to submit a new schedule request, and there was no guarantee that that would be approved. And then they kind of worked backwards from January 6th until the 1st of January about what his schedule was. She said that she saw him in person on January 6th, that he submitted his schedule, and he was scheduled to have a haircut on the 11th. And on the 12th, he wanted to meet with his probate attorney. So then on the 5th of January, he reported that he had contact with law enforcement, as that's required as the conditions of his parole. And then informed her that Ana Walshe was missing. His regular schedule, or what he was allowed to do, was to drop his kids off sometime between 8 and 10:30 in the morning. And then from 10:15 to 1:30 on the 5th, he had permission to assist his mom with some errands. And then from 3:45 to 6:45, he had a window where he could pick up his kids. And that was set. The pickup and drop off of his kids was set and reoccurring. Then on the 4th, which was a Wednesday, again, he could pick up and drop off his kids. And then from 11 to 1:30, he had a window where he could go grocery shopping. Then on the 3rd, again, he had permission to pick up and drop off his kids. And then from 7:50 to 8:20 p.m., he had a window where he was allowed to take care of his trash. And the reason he was allowed to leave the property for that is because his trash collection was not located on his property. Then on the 2nd, which was a Monday, he only had permission to pick up and drop off his kids. And at 3:53 p.m., there was an unauthorized leave from his house. And she immediately called him. They spoke about it and said that he had not given any notice that school was out that day. And so that was the reason for the confusion. Hey, Lola Z, Joe Neal, good to see you guys. Glad you're here. Then on Sunday, the 1st of January, he had permission to return his mother to her home between 3 and 9 p.m. And that was because his mom had had surgery and was staying with them, and he had permission to take her back home. But he had no permission to go to a restaurant. There were no unapproved stops allowed. So essentially, all of the things that we saw camera footage and on the map data that I went over, almost none of those were approved. He had a window he was allowed to see or to pick up and drop off his kids. And I was really confused at first. Well, not confused, but I was noting that all the places he dropped off trash bags were places that were familiar to him. And it's like, hey, buddy, if you want to get away with something, maybe try some places you've never been before and people don't know where you are or who you are. But the reason he did that, we know now, is because he wasn't authorized to go anywhere else. He was authorized to go to his mom's residence, which is why he chose to drop off trash bags there. Duh. I didn't know. Okay, I'm just a juror coming to this for the first time. Okay, then on cross-examination, the defense attorneys asked, even if he asked in advance to modify his schedule, there's no guarantee that would be approved. And the parole officer confirmed that that was correct. Now we're going to get into a little bit of surveillance video. The next witness was Tony Masarina, who is the district asset protection manager from Home Depot. And they had some video footage of Brian visiting the Home Depot in Rockland, sorry, can't read my own writing, at 4:15 p.m. on the 2nd of January. And I will share a little bit of this video with you guys. Some of it is quite long, so I usually try to play it at 2x speed just so we don't spend too much time watching these, but I do want to show them to you. Give me 1 second. Thanks for being patient as I get my technology set up here.
Can you see the video on screen? Yes. Where is this in the Home Depot?
Okay, so this is the Home Depot entrance, and we're going to see Brian Walshe come in here in just a second. And there he is, coming into the Home Depot. And then just about a minute later, we're going to see the angle from the self-checkout where he comes and, or it's actually the contractor checkout. He brings this cart full of stuff to the checkout, and the cashier helps him here. And you're going to see him hands behind his back. This is a typical stance for Brian Walshe, pacing around, being pretty impatient, as my dogs are. I don't know if you can hear their tails or not, but they're driving me crazy. And then again, he pays in cash. The total receipt for this transaction was $453.54. For those of you who have seen the Lowe's transaction from the other day, excuse me, this haul of items was not dissimilar from that. It was a lot of cleanup, brooms, mops, buckets, washcloths, things of that nature. Okay, so basically this is all it is. And you see him, he pays in cash. And then the next thing that we're going to see is the receipt from this transaction. And you back up just a tiny bit. So if we zoom in here, we see Scotch heavy duty 54 yards, which I'm not sure if that's painter's tape. And then the next thing we see is clear plastic sheeting. And then they're going to scroll. Oops, I meant to slow this down so that we can see them scroll up here, because that's what I had to do to see all of the things. Let me just back it up a tiny bit. So as they scroll up here, it's hard to do on a super long video, guys. Sorry about this. Okay, I'm just going to have to be patient while it plays through because I slowed down the speed so that we could catch it. I'm going to become Trisha here for a second. And now it's buffering. Isn't technology wonderful? I just really want you guys to see what's on the receipt. That's all. Okay, here we go. Oop, dang it. I missed it. Got to be quick on the draw. And it doesn't help that it's buffering. And I'm also not paying attention to chat right now. I apologize, you guys. So they got these receipts from the store because, you know, the store, when they're able to see the timestamp of the person coming into the store, they can go back and check the transaction records and see who checked out at that point. So it's really easy to do, actually. And I think a lot of people, especially in Brian's generation, may not realize that if you have, you know, your cell phone turned on and you're logged into any of your applications, they can get your location, they can get all of your search history and all of your data right off your cell phone, and they can compare it with the places that you've been. They can see exactly what you're doing, what you're buying, what you're, you know, what you're doing with your entire day. And that's kind of what they've done with Brian Walshe is they've assembled an entire timeline of everything that he did in those several days. Okay, I feel like this is kind of just not worth waiting for right now. But it's, again, as I said before, it's very similar to the receipt that we saw from Lowe's. Okay, finally, here we go. So the Scotch heavy duty 54 yards, I think that's either painter's tape or something. Clear plastic sheeting, Tyvek with hood and booties, the Tyvek suit, a heavy duty canopy tarp, a 10-ounce canvas, 12-10, I don't know, canvas drop cloth, an auto lock tape measure. I don't know what he needed that for. Multi-surface, Quickie 24-inch multi-surface fiberglass something, Quickie bulldozer super stiff angle something, extra large precision angle broom, Homer leak-proof lid. Those are those buckets, all of those buckets with the leak-proof lid, a soft grip utility knife, a red nitrile dip cut. Those are the gloves that we saw. Splash resistant goggles, heavy duty dustpan, large sandy nitrile. Those are I think those are the wipes. And then the Fiskars hatchet, and then 2 12-pound bags of baking soda, and then a wave break mop bucket. So very similar to the things that he bought at the Lowe's the day that he was there. Then we had Kelly Palalogas, I think is how you say that. She was from the Chatham Apartments. And here we have some surveillance video from the dumpsters, which she said the dumpsters were open to the public. And we've got the surveillance video about right here. And again, I'm going to speed it up a little bit. So those are the dumpsters right there. We know that Brian Walshe drives a Volvo XC90. And that's what we're looking for, presumably, or for himself to show up. Looks like his vehicle is going to show up. Yep, there's the XC90 pulling up right next to the dumpsters. He gets out, and you can see him go to the dumpster and drop something off. Now, the video skips just a little bit, but it's pretty clear what's going on there. And I'm surprised to have her say that, oh, shoot, I'm not showing you. Let me go back. I apologize, you guys. all the switching back and forth. All right, now you can see the video. So the XC90 is going to come in from the right side. This is the dumpster right here. And the video does skip a little bit. Sometimes surveillance videos are like that, where they're not super clear. You can just briefly see him get out and go to the dumpster and then return to the vehicle. Then the next witness was Christopher Burascori, and he was one of the people that handles data at TJ Maxx. And so now we're going to see the TJ Maxx video footage. And we'll also get to see the receipt from those transactions as well. I think they paused the video here just so that, oops, try again. Okay, so here's Brian entering the TJ Maxx. And he's obviously got a piece of paper with a list on it, which we saw that in his Lowe's video as well. And then here he is checking out, or he's about to come down this aisle. I call this the gauntlet. They've got all of these impulse buy items here as you head up to the registers. Excuse me. And here he comes down. It looks like he's got some pants and a belt. And we're going to see what else as he checks out. Again, hands behind his back, sort of leaning back and forth, fidgeting. And when I saw him standing like that with his hands behind his back and his legs open wide, I was like, well, get used to it, buddy. I'm still impartial, though. It's still possible the defense could come out with something amazing that's going to explain all of this. My mind is open to new possibilities. So here's the receipt from that TJ Maxx transaction. I mean, let's be clear, you guys. I say I'm impartial. I mean, there's been so much evidence against him that's so incredibly hard to explain that I would be really surprised at this point if they come back with anything that gives me reasonable doubt. But I'm leaving my mind open that there possibly could be something that comes in that gives me some kind of reasonable doubt. Don't get me wrong. I see all of this evidence and it's horrible. But again, I'm just waiting to hear if there's anything else. So here again, if you blink, you'll miss it. They're going to scroll up on this receipt. And I don't think there's anything nefarious on this receipt necessarily, to be honest with you. His other TJ Maxx visit, he bought a bunch of rugs and candles. But on this one, I think there's anything bad. So dress socks, eggplant, 14 zip in box. I think those are shoes that he got. So I don't think there's anything nefarious about this, but you know, it's just another instance of him violating his parole. So, okay. Then the last witness for the prosecution before the prosecution rested, and I did already spoil that for you guys. The prosecution has rested. Was Alyssa Kirby. She and Ana Walshe called each other new best friends. They met when she moved out there in April of 2022, starting her new job. And she said that on the 29th of December, when she spoke with Ana Walshe, Ana was very upset regarding Brian's not being able to relocate to Washington, D.C. She really wanted to be with her kids. She wanted Brian to take responsibility for his crime, even if it meant serving jail time. This is the first we've heard of anything similar to this. Alyssa said that Ana was usually happy and strong, And then she mentioned an incident where Brian Walshe's mom hired a psychic, and the psychic told Brian's mom that Ana was having an affair. Ana said that Brian's mom never liked her and that this revelation was scary. I do want to show you one last thing. There was a beautiful picture of Ana and her friend Alyssa together. And Alyssa became quite emotional when this, understandably so. So this is a picture of the two of them together, the last time that they spent time together. And I think I will just leave that up there while we finish this recap. Alyssa said that she didn't get to see Ana after 12:29. The last contact they had was on midnight at 12:31, wishing each other Happy New Year. And Brian, she noted that Brian did say that his mom's comments about the psychic and the affair were crazy. So apparently Brian didn't really believe that either. Then on cross-examination, Alyssa said that she saw, they saw each other about one time a week. They tried to get together once a week. And that it wasn't uncommon for Ana to work until 7 or 8 p.m. And she would always be flying back and forth, coming into DC on Monday and flying out usually on Thursday or Friday. But she said when she talked to Brian Walshe on December 25th, when Brian called and asked if she had seen Ana, Brian was nervous and worried. She said that she offered to go by the townhome to see if Ana was there. But then just a few minutes later, Brian texted her and said it was all good, that he had gotten in touch with her. Then she said that Ana was angry. They spoke to each other that Christmas Day, and she was angry and upset because it hadn't been that long since Ana and Brian spoke. She said only a couple of hours, and and Brian was already looking for her. Ana said that Brian was not jealous, but she wanted him to maybe be a little more protective. Ana did not reveal her affair to her friend Alyssa. And when she spoke to her on December 29th, she seemed drained and tired because of her busy schedule. She said at the end of December, Ana was sleeping longer hours, and she seemed like she was burnt out. On the 20th, they were supposed to see each other, December 20th, but Ana was not well, and so she canceled. Then they went back to this issue of Ana wanting Brian to take accountability, even if it meant jail time. And there was a question about, did Ana say, "We'll be here for you when you get out"? And the friend said she could not remember that specific phrase, but that she really just wanted her family to be together. Then on redirect, prosecution wanted to ask about this. Did he say, or did Ana say she wanted the family to be together, or was it more about the kids? And the friend said that specifically she mentioned being upset about not spending as much time with her kids. The prosecution asked if Ana felt loved in her relationship, and Alyssa said that Brian would not tell her, "I love you," that often, not as much. And when Brian would say, "How much do you love me?" at one point, Ana did say, "I don't love you as much," and that she was falling out of love mainly because of this situation with the court case. She said they hadn't been intimate in a very long time, mainly because Brian was stressed and because their sleep schedules were not good. Then there was a stipulation that the judge read to the jury where he said that the judge, revealed to the jury that Brian had pled guilty to wire fraud, traveling to commit fraud, and an unlawful financial transaction. They stipulated to that he'd pled guilty to it, and then the Commonwealth rests. And at this time, when the judge said that the Commonwealth rests, she said to the jury that she said, I told you that this was going to happen in chapters, and this is the end of this chapter. The prosecution has presented, or the Commonwealth has presented, all of the evidence that they want you to see in this case. So that chapter is closed. And then she reiterated that the defendant doesn't have to do anything. He doesn't have to present any evidence. He doesn't have to present or testify. It is the Commonwealth's burden to prove. Well, I'm going home today thinking to myself, I think the Commonwealth has proved their burden. If I had to decide the case right now, it would be guilty. But I will be interested to see what the what the defense does produce. Now, I think this interview or this testimony by Alyssa Kirby was one of the most revealing that we've seen so far. There was a lot of inside information. I'm going to go back over it because, you know, it was the end of the day. I was a little bit hurried to get notes and to get onto the recap. And I know there were some things that I left out that I did not write down because I'm remembering some things I didn't write down. So I'm going to go back over it again. There was a lot that she had to say about Brian and Ana's relationship. But again, the defense was vehement about keeping out any sort of language that had to do with marital problems or with cracks in their relationship. They really did not want any of that to get in. And so I'll be interested to hear what happens going forward. And I hope you'll stick with me as we come back tomorrow for a full day of trial. The defense will be on. We will see what is going to happen. And stick around because after I do my deliberations, my friend Kirsten is going to come on and reveal to me all of the things that I've been missing behind the scenes and everything that was revealed before this case even took off. I haven't been privy to any of that. I haven't done any research, and we're going to get my real-time reaction to what's going on behind the scenes. I have a feeling it's going to be wild just based on what we've seen in court. So I hope that you will stay here with us for that. Thanks for being here. As always, please be very good to yourselves and hug the people you love. And may justice be served. See you soon.